Right. So this is a backtesting spreadsheet I've been building over the last few days. I'm hoping this is going to be useful for some of you guys as well. I've had a few requests over the last few months for backtesting or a spreadsheet of any kind for journals and stuff like that. And the thing is, I have loads of these things. I've been developing these spreadsheets for months now. They iterate every time, and I never really have one definitive version to kind of share around. And I needed to create a new backtesting spreadsheet because I want to get properly serious with this now. And I wanted to have a decent spreadsheet to start from so that I'm not, getting halfway through and wishing that I'd spent some time building an improved version. Because I've had some ideas in my head for a little while now on how to make a decent spreadsheet and to more importantly make just make the UI a bit more appealing and a bit easier to use, because the thing about spreadsheets is they are fucking great for quantitative analysis. You can put all of your data in here and then you can analyze. There's loads of features in Google Sheets for analyzing data in a statistical kind of way. But when it comes to managing your screenshots of your charts and note taking as well, it's just not designed for that. You've got a single cell here with one line. You can type on multiple lines if you want, but then you get like a massive cell here, and then all your data doesn't look uniform. And it's just mixing the quantitative and the qualitative kind of ways of looking at your trades is always something I've wanted to do. So I've wanted to kind of mix that together. Some people I know use Discord. They've got like a private Discord channel, and I've tried that myself, having a private Discord server set up where I would post trades in there so that I could browse through them. But the truth is, on Discord, the gallery features or the kind of the features for viewing screenshots in Discord are pretty much non-existent. Like, you can't just view a gallery of all the screenshots that you've posted in a channel. You have to click on each individual post, and it's a very cumbersome kind of UI. So there's not really any decent apps out there, I find, for this kind of stuff that's customized for traders. So what I'm sort of working towards is eventually a desktop app for all this stuff that would, it would be like a fully fledged desktop journal app, a bit like Edgewonk. But I don't know if any of you have used Edgewonk, but it sucks. It fucking sucks. It's just this really clunky old Java app that kind of there's no cloud access or anything. I think they've updated it recently, but I think the guy who's built that, he built it like 5 years ago or something using pretty old technology, and I don't think he's really updated it since. Um, so yeah, it's been one of my goals to build some journaling software that doesn't suck ass. And Google Sheets so far for me has been the one, because I'm a developer. And learning how to use Google Sheets has been really interesting, really fun. I highly recommend you learn how to use Google Sheets if you don't already, because it's so fucking powerful. There's so much stuff you can do with this, and even just a few little tips can like really improve things. Rather than just having a flat spreadsheet where you're doing everything manually, like just a few little tricks here and there can make your life a lot easier. And maybe there's some tricks that you might pick up from this sheet. Maybe you want to use this sheet yourself, or maybe you just want to copy some ideas from it for your own sheets. Um, but what I've done with this, I think I'm pretty happy with. And so I've got it into a state now where I just want to share it around, get some feedback from you guys, maybe share it amongst a wider audience as time goes on, see how it goes really. So yeah, let's get down to it. So there'll be a link in the Discord for this sheet, and when you click the link, you'll arrive on this page, right? It'll say view only. Um, Now, what you don't want to do is request edit access, because I won't give you access to this because this is my copy. So what you want to do is you just want to go to File, and then click Make a Copy, right? And this will obviously create a copy of this sheet on your Google Drive, right? So you can name it whatever you want. So I'm going to call it Backtesting June 2021. Okay, so now this is my copy. This is your, well, this is my copy of the spreadsheet now. I can start editing this data, or I can just delete this data and start from scratch, or we can play around with this. So I'll take you through this, but first of all, we just need to set this up. So one thing I've done is I've added a side panel to this so that you can view all of this data, like really nice, easy to a nice bit of UI for all your screenshots and stuff. So if you go to Journal Tools and click Trade Detail, now the first time you do this, you're going to have to authorize the app. So this is a bunch of scripts that I've written to basically do this side panel UI. So you need to just allow it here. And because I haven't verified this app with Google yet, you'll have to go through this page. I promise you it's safe. I'm not going to hack or try and steal any of your data. So if you click the advanced thing and then go to backtesting, right? I will verify this app, but Google wants me to have a website and everything set up, which I will eventually do. But for now, you just have to go through that, skip through that. Yeah, so read this so I can see all that stuff. It's basically all I'm doing is I'm reading and writing to this spreadsheet, so there's nothing to worry about there. So once you allow that, that should then, is it going to kick it off? No, okay. So now when you go to Journal Tools, first of all, select the row that you want to look at, go to Journal Tools, click Trade Detail, right? That's going to bring up this little sidebar here. Okay, so there's one more step we need to go through to get this set up, and then I promise you that's the end of all the setup stuff. So for some reason Google doesn't let you resize this sidebar. It gives you a tiny little useless window to view all your stuff in, which is just fucking useless, to be honest. So what I've had to do here is hack my own kind of way to resize this sidebar. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a little piece of code here, right? I'll post this in the Discord. So if you copy this, and if you come over to your browser and you just want to make a bookmark, right? So you can bookmark this page. But I'm going to call this sidebar, or rather resize sidebar. Okay, and I'm going to put it on the bookmarks bar. Yeah. Okay, so I've created my I've created my bookmark here, but really that's just a bookmark of this page. So what we want to do is we want to edit this bookmark, right? Delete the URL, and we just want to paste this code here in here. So basically this is what you call a bookmarklet. So it will just run this little script that I've written whenever you click the bookmark. So you click the bookmark, so you keep it in your bookmarks bar so it's easy to access. You click that and it's going to resize the sidebar, right? Now you can in here edit this. So you just go to the start of the script. There's a number in there, default size 1000 pixels, right? That's just the setting I've got. You can change that to any number you want and set the width of your sidebar to whatever you want the default to be. Save it, good to go. Whenever you click that, it'll resize it to that size. Now you only have to do this once. So if I close the sidebar and reopen it, I don't need to click that again. This is resized now. It will remember as long as I don't refresh the page. I never refresh the page, but when you load up the spreadsheet for the first time, you're probably going to have to click the sidebar if it comes up with a tiny window. Once it's at this size though, I find that sometimes I want to actually have a closer look at what I'm looking at, so you can just drag this. So I've added a little handle, I suppose you'd call that, where you can just drag it to whatever size you want, and it will remember that size as well. So if I close the sidebar, go to Journal Tools, open again, it'll remember the size that I picked, right? So, okay, so you can access it from the Journal Tools menu here, or there's also another option. There's a keyboard shortcut. So if you go to Tools, Macros, that's where the keyboard shortcut is. There's Command, Option, Shift, and 1, which is fucking, well, Command Option Shift and 1. That's a pretty cumbersome shortcut. Oh, why hasn't that worked? Fuck. That worked that time. Okay. What I've actually done is I've mapped, because that shortcut is kind of useless because it's such a long shortcut, but what I've done is I've mapped that keyboard shortcut to my mouse. So I've got an extra button on my mouse that I've programmed to basically, in Google Chrome, when I click that button, it does this shortcut. Because I spend so much time in these journal apps, in these spreadsheets, like I may as well have a button dedicated to just opening that. So if I can select any cell, any row on this sheet, click my button, and then it opens it up. The other thing you can do is obviously you've got these previous and next, so you can cycle through all your trades here and just scroll through them like that. Equally, if once the sidebar is open as well, you select a row, you click load row, it's just going to load the row that's currently selected there. So you can skip around like that. So there's a few ways that you can access the side panel and navigate around. Now what I've done is I've just put a simple header up here. Some of the data, like the setup, whether it was long or short, the status of the setup, whether it was missed, no fill, cancelled, and then you've got your screenshots in here, so you can cycle through those however you want using the tabs or the arrows. I've got a button up here as well, so if you want to just view that trade in the screenshot in a new tab, it will do that for you there. And obviously you can add some notes in here as well. So here are my notes. Hit enter. I think shift and enter. You can go onto a new line, hit enter, and it will paste it. It's a bit like typing in Discord or anything like that. Okay, cool. And then if you want to edit your screenshots, you can click the edit page here, go to add chart, type in, maybe I want to add in like the daily chart, and I've got a URL from TradingView, for example, and you can just say, right, well, this isn't the thing I want to actually do, but you paste your URL in there, click save, and then it will upload it there. So actually one thing I do want to do here is I just want to update this trade, because on the Euro, I was looking at this 30-minute sweep here, and I was thinking, right, we're probably going to reach for this LG. I think that's a 4-hour LG, and even though we've got space below to the 4-hour OC, we have rebalanced something here and had a nice sweep, nice sort of hammer candle there. So my thinking was, until it reaches that LG, it's probably got some upside. Once it reaches that LG, it's probably going to act as resistance. We sweep this high and come back down. And what's happened is, this is TradingView, yeah. So what's happened is we've actually swept that high now. Okay, and so I never got the fill on this. We've swept the high at this point, and we have actually swept it, haven't we, on the 30-minute? Yeah. So at this point, I'm anticipating that that's going to act as resistance now, and we're going to probably come back down. Maybe we sweep this low, and then maybe we put in a reversal and start moving up again on the 30-minute there. So this trade was a no fill. I want to just come back to, I want to add the screenshot in. So get my TradingView screenshot, come back to my backtesting spreadsheet. Okay, edit charts, add a chart. This is the 2-minute. Just paste it in there, click save. Boom. Right, and then the other thing I need to do is update the status here. So I'll update it to no fill. And then I'll reload that. There you go. Cool. So that's that done. So yeah, this sidebar for me is really useful because now I can browse through my trades, and like it's a fucking pleasure to do that. So I'll take you through the columns that I've got on here. So basically, if the columns on here are highlighted in yellow, that means there's some code somewhere that relies on this header text, right? So as long as you don't change the header text here, everything should continue to work. If you want to insert your own columns in here and like whatever you want to record, like I don't have a field for time frames, for example. The reason being is now I can just label my charts with the time frame, but maybe you want to record the time frame, right? So you might want to create your own thing. It should all still work. We don't have these custom fields displayed in the sidebar, but if you did want to view the data, you can see it down here. Right? This is just spitting out all the data from the row. I may at some point improve this and make it a little bit nicer to read, but there's a raw output of the thing there, so you'll always get that. So yeah, so you should be able to add and add any columns you want, as long as you just let the yellow ones. You can rearrange them as well. I've made it so that it's not going to mess up any references. So you can arrange them how you want. Just keep the text in these headings the same. So I'll take you through the columns. I'll take you through the columns and why I've put them the way they are, right? So for backtesting, we have the date, right? That should be today's date always. If you're going through historical data, we do want to record, obviously we want to record the setup date and time, but also for me at least, and I assume it's the same for others, I want to know how I'm progressing over time, right? So my backtesting this week might be better than my backtesting last week, even if I'm taking trades from 3 months ago. So I want to track my progress over time. So every entry in the spreadsheet must have a date, right? And it's important we have a date because we have a special column over here which fills with a 1. That's kind of a visit. It's hard to explain what that is. I'll come back to that later. But we need the date in here so that we have a 1 in this field, so that this row is like registered, so to speak. Okay. Every trade. So let's go to this column now. Every trade has a status, right? And these are standard across all my spreadsheets now. I think they cover all the bases. So it's quite a useful system to use. So each trade has a status. It can be pending, as in I've set an order, I've set a limit order and I'm waiting it to fill. It can be open, as in the order's been filled, the trade is live, capital at risk, so orange, red seems like the right color to have for that. We have closed, the trade is finished, there's been some kind of outcome from the trade and we're moving on to something else, it just closed down the trade. Cancelled is for setups that I may have marked up on my charts and considered taking, but decided not to for one reason or another. So for trades like that, for this, I was looking at this sweep, right? There's a sweep, but we're in a 30-minute uptrend. We're in a 4-hour uptrend. We're in a daily uptrend, even though this looks like a retracement, right? This kind of looks like a retracement. Yeah, I didn't want to take a reversal, basically. So I changed my mind about that trade. It went on. It would have been a loser if I'd taken the trade. So that was a good decision in the end. But that's what I'm using cancelled for. So my thinking is there are trades that I sometimes mark up and I decide not to take them for one reason or another. I want to know whether those trades are worth actually, whether my discretion is any good or not. I want to know if my decision to take a trade or not take a trade was a good one. In this case, it was a good decision, but I've had quite a few cancelled trades like this one, I think. Let's have a look at this one. This one was a long, yeah, ETH perp long. For some reason, I thought it didn't look like it. It didn't look like it had reasons to go up, really. These lows looked really equal down here. And I think we were at this stage in the backtest where, like, I basically had some time there during the backtest with this, as the trade drew down past my entry level and then popped up just a little. Ooh, excuse me. As it popped up just a little bit there, I had to make a decision, and I thought it's probably going to go down, and I was wrong. So I want to know like how those cancelled trades, whether I should listen to my discretion or whether I should just be a robot and take every single setup. So that's what the cancelled field is for. And then missed trades. Let's go to a missed trade. Here's one I missed because I was either not at the screen. I think I was just I wasn't out of bed early enough. So there's one that I missed. Okay, I want to keep track of missed trades. Still worth, like, sometimes you go through on your back test and you see a trade that you didn't spot yet. You're too far forward in your replay on the replay mode. You can't take that trade because if you did, you'd be cheating, right? But you still want to mark the setup up and learn something from it. If you've missed a trade, for some reason you're not spotting it, so you want to log that screenshot. You want to make sure that you're noting down the trades you're missing because you want to start being able to catch them in advance, right, as they're happening. So I want to record all my missed trades like that, but I don't want them to affect my results. So that's what the missed field is for, and then no fill obviously is for when you have a very disappointing no fill. You were right about the direction, but the trade went without you. I want to record those too. I want to see if if I'm getting a lot of no fills, maybe I can be more aggressive in a trending environment. If I'm not getting filled, maybe I can adjust my entry levels slightly. I don't know, but I want to log all my no fills as well. So those are the reasonings behind these columns. That column, sorry. Pair, obviously you're going to want to record what instrument you're trading. I've added a custom column for type here. Live or backtest. That doesn't really, that's just a custom column. You may or may not want that in yours. You might just want to use this purely for backtesting. I'm using it for kind of some forward testing as well. Buy or sell, self-explanatory. Setup, obviously, you might want to record more than one type of setup in this spreadsheet. And then for me, I'm using these two ones that I've added. High time frame trend, low time frame trend. They should be self-explanatory as well. I want to know if we're in a 4-hour uptrend or downtrend. Are we in a 30-minute uptrend or downtrend? Are we retracing on one time frame and trending on the other? Are we trading a reversal on both time frames? Are we trading with the trend? I feel like those are useful columns to have. And then obviously daily environment, I've added one for are we trending or consolidating? That seems like a reasonable thing to have. What's that hidden? Oh yeah, I've accidentally hidden that. But the thing I want to be careful with this is I don't want to add too many columns of data, right? I don't want to have loads of stuff because it just becomes difficult to fill in. So I've thought very carefully about these. I'm not even sure if, I guess I'll keep the daily environment one, but these two for me are very important, and I think that's all I really need to record. But sometimes, so I'll come back to tags in a minute. But sometimes you might want to add other stuff in. You might want to add whatever columns you want, but the thing I found with backtesting is the more concise your data can be, the easier it is to keep it consistent. So think carefully about what things you want to add, because once you're like 50, 100 tests into a data set, you'll maybe find yourself recording data that you just think, well, this isn't very useful. It's just laborious, or maybe be careful not to overcomplicate it. Is basically my sort of philosophy with this stuff. Setup date and time. Obviously, that's for me. That's the time at which the setup was triggered, i.e., when I would place an order, rather than the actual when it filled. Again, it doesn't really matter what you do with that. Just be consistent. Like for me, the time is the time of day that on the 3SX, say, price closed beyond the shift level and the trade was ready to place orders. And yeah, we're generating the day and the session. I'll get back to session times in a bit and explain how that works. But this is all automated, so you don't need to fill those in. In this field, you just put in what was your target for the trade. So I think for that euro one, I was going to aim for 3R, right? And then the outcome. So did it hit your target? Did it hit your stop loss? Or was it a break even? depending on, maybe you have some rules for that. So let's pretend that this euro trade did fill and it was a winner. So target closed. Cool. So that was a win. If I click stop, it's my stop loss, -1R. Break even is a break even trade, right? That should be fairly simple to, fairly straightforward, right? And if I reload this row, it's going to come up as 3R win. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I'll just put that back to how it was. Cool. And then we've got these columns here: max drawdown and drawdown. Sorry, max R and drawdown, right? So maximum R is the maximum extension you get on a trade. So for example, on this trade here, it was a 3R win, so I was aiming for 3R and it hit the target. But then later on, the trade extended, right? It went to 10R eventually. So I want to know the maximum extension. See, it went to 10R down there. So that's what max R is for. I'm not recording extensions greater than 10R. So I've put a little validation on here. So if you go above 10, it's going to say, you know, you should choose a number between 0 and 10. You can customize that if you want, but I just think if you're recording extensions beyond 10R, it's like, are you really going to hold a trade beyond 10R? Realistically not. And if you are, you're probably not going to be consistent with that. So 10R seemed like a sensible limit to stick to for that. And I'm only using whole numbers in here as well. I'm rounding down to the nearest whole number because backtesting, you know, it's all theoretical, right? There's no fees involved, there's nothing like that. So if a trade went 5.5R in my favor, do I care? No, I'm just going to put 5R because, you know, it's a more realistic kind of way of recording the stats, because the stats are always going to be skewed in your favor with backtesting. I feel it's hard to get your sort of biases out of it. It's hard to do this without cheating, you know, and you're going through historical price action that you've already seen. You know, your subconscious kind of remembers stuff that's happened, even if it seems new to you at the time. So I just think just err on the side of being more conservative, use a whole number, round it down. That's the best thing to do. Right, next column, drawdown. So I also want to know, when I enter a trade, what's the drawdown on that trade? If it was a winning trade and it goes to target, you know, what was the drawdown? So on this, go back to this example here. Right, so this trade, when it filled, it actually went, let's have a look at that. It actually went almost to the EQ there. So in theory, I could have tightened that up. I could have entered closer to the EQ, couldn't I? I could have taken, there's a little bit of there's some price action in there you maybe would have not wanted to move your entry level to. So I can see, for example, when we're in a strong trending environment, actually no, that wouldn't be right, would it? You wouldn't expect drawdown. Anyway, you might find scenarios where you're getting more drawdown than others. Maybe you can fine tune your entry. So it's a good statistic to record, I think. You might see some patterns over time. But actually, I've recorded the wrong figure for that. So I'm doing this in increments of like 0.25, purely because when you're staring at your RBX here and you've got 0.50, it's hard to like gauge anything less than like quarters. If you're trying to gauge like it drew down 0.2R there, you're only going to be eyeballing it and you're not going to get an accurate kind of number. So if it crosses 0.25R, I'll put 0.25. Didn't quite make it to 0.5. So I'm writing 0.25 minus 0.25R in this box for that. Okay. And then finally, we've got the invalid field, right? So sometimes you take a trade that doesn't fit the rules, or you've broken the rules in some way or another. I want to keep track of those as well. So here's one that a setup that I was watching. I was in a back test, yeah, but there was a 30-minute sweep. It wasn't actually a sweep. It was two candles here. So technically invalid, it might be invalid. I'm still toying with the idea of whether I have I allow those to be sweeps or whether, you know, but I think it's pretty much invalid. I'm sure XP would say that's invalid. So I've marked that as invalid, and it just puts a strike through that column, so that I can see that it's an invalid trade, right? Okay. So there's a breakdown of the columns I've used. Hopefully they all make sense. Like I said, you can add your own, and there are ways to do. There's interesting stuff you can do with that as well. So one thing I have done with the tags here is another field that I'm adding in. Tags I'm going to use for like extra little bits of data that maybe I maybe don't deserve an entire column of their own, but you might want to start tracking some things like, for example, you might want to know what the state of the RSI was, or you might have some kind of idea about how price reacts around the daily open, and you want to record some statistics on that. So those are the kind of things I think would go in a single tags column, right? Where you just put a list of all the things that that you want to keep track of, and just have a comma separated list. Like maybe I have like maybe I want to record 4-hour sweeps. Maybe this trade here was a 4-hour sweep, right? Okay, so I've got a tag for that. Okay, now the thing is with tags is you know, if I just type those in every time, I'm going to get inconsistent data, right? I'm not going to be able to filter down by, you know, it's going to turn into a nightmare quite quickly. But Google Sheets doesn't give you a multiple select kind of thing. So what I can do, so I do Command Shift and down on this column, highlight all the cells, and then go to data validation. I'll put a list of items in, right? RSI, DO for daily open, 4-hour sweep, right? These are my tags. So now I have a select box, but the thing is Google Sheets doesn't allow you to select multiple things at once, right? It's one or the other. It's always one or the other. So what I've added is a script to allow you to use these as multiple select instead. So if you go to, on the field that you want to make a multiple select, if you go data validation, and then in the show validation help text box here, if you type multi in capital letters there, you turn this into a multiple select field. It's just a little feature that I've developed. So now I can say 4-hour sweep and RSI on that trade. Or this one, the RSI was overbought, oversold, and we had the daily open strategy as well at the same time. Now the thing with that is you might have lots of these tags. You might have lots of these tags, and then you might, I think I found in the past is I've had a lot of tags and then I forget. I just need some water. I forget what tag actually means, or I forget, is there a specific rule? Like, you know, if I've got an RSI tag, is that like oversold, overbought? Is that a divergence? Like, on what time frames? Like, you know, you end up questioning all this stuff, and you've really got to make sure that the data you record is consistent. Otherwise, there's absolutely no point. There's got to be an objective rule for what does the RSI tag mean, right? So my approach to that, and the kind of thing I think you can quite easily do in Google Sheets that maybe a lot of people don't know how to do, is you can just create another sheet, right? For my tags, I'm going to rename this tags. Let's do a couple of headings here, right? So I'll have the tag, and then I can write a description for the tag, right? So let's just set this up, just make it look like the styles I usually use for this stuff. Okay, so in here I might have RSI, and description is RSI is oversold or overbought on the high time frame, right? maybe I want to ignore it on the low time frames, and my rule is RSI can only be a tag if it's on the high time frame, right? That's the kind of thing that having the nodes here makes sense for. Or like DO is a daily open. Some rules about my daily open strategy here. Okay. What was the other one? RSI div. So maybe you have RSI for oversold and overbought, and RSI divergence on the high time frame. Okay. So once you've created, a list of your tags and the descriptions, right? You can come back here into your tags column here. If you highlight all of the tags, highlight all of the cells in that row, column, sorry, data validation, and instead of list of items, you just go list from a range, right? And then here you want to put the range that we've just created in the other sheet. So click select data range, go to your tag sheet, highlight the range, use the keyboard for that, right? So you highlight the cell, shift command, down arrow, and then down arrow again, highlights everything. Okay, click OK, save, and I come back here. And now when I click this, these are the items from my tag sheet. So I can just come in here. Maybe this one has RSI div, blah blah blah. Right. Okay. I forgot to add a 4-hour sweep to this menu as well. So because we've selected the entire column here, if I come in here and I add 4-hour sweep, 30-minute sweep is also a 4-hour sweep. Every time I add a new tag into here, and I can add as many as I want, come back here, 4-hour sweeps now in the menu, right? So now I can easily add any kind of tag that I kind of think, oh, maybe it'd be interesting to find out what the RSI was doing. I don't have to dedicate an entire column to it. Keeps my data nice and tidy. If I stop tracking the RSI at some point for whatever reason, it's not like I'm going to have some column sitting there that's just taking up space and I don't know what to do with it. It just keeps things nice and tidy. And then maybe you've learned something as well there with the whole like referencing other ranges to pull in data here. That's a little trick you can use. Right, okay. So the other thing you may have noticed on here is we have the sessions, right? Now these are calculated for you. So you can be sure that as long as you put in the correct time of day, which is piss easy, right? You just put the time of day that the setup occurred. Your session times are going to be accurate. There's going to be no inconsistencies with your data. And the way this calculates the session time, so if you come to session times here, right, we're doing a similar concept to how we did the tags, but we've got another sheet that calculates the session time for you, right? So you can feel free to edit this for whatever the session times are in your time zone, whatever you want to do, however you want to label your sessions, you can do it in here. So this is the code that will appear in the spreadsheet. Here's the start time of the session, right? So the aim of this is you just fill in your start times until from 0 hours to 22 to the end of the day, right? And just fill in your sessions. There's a few sessions here that you might not want to observe in the middle of the day. So London Open for me is 6 till 9. I've added a little bit of padding afterwards. I don't know, I haven't actually set this up like to the exact times I want yet. But yeah, from 9 until 12 or 9 until 11 a.m, I should probably say, is kind of a dead zone, isn't it? Well, it is for me in the UK here. It's between the London Open and the New York Open. So for that, I've just put a little dash there. And then, the NY Open session will end when the next session begins. So hopefully that makes sense. You just put the start time of all the sessions you want and the code that you want in here. And then there's a little thing here that you can use to test it. So I just want to test that if I had a trade at 11:30, that it's going to output New York Open, right? So I can test that. Okay, and then here we have a setting as well. and whether this allows you to choose whether sessions are observed, these session times are observed at the weekends or not. So the sessions can be valid at the weekend. So you're always going to have Asia, New York Open, based on the time of day, or you can set this to not be valid at weekends, and then it will replace it with this code. So as you can see here, with that setting enabled or disabled, I should say, the session times are replaced with weekend where it's appropriate. So maybe you think New York Open, London Open doesn't mean shit at the weekends, and you just want to know what your stats are like at the weekend. So you can do that here, but it's dynamic, right? So anytime you want, you can come and change that setting and have a look, play around. If you find that the session times you've got maybe don't make any sense, you don't have to, you want to change them. You don't have to, you only have to remember what the session times are, the exact session times are once. And if you want to change them in the future, you don't have to change all your data, right? It's a dynamic thing. So I think that's a pretty useful thing to have. So, okay, that's session times explained. So what else can you do with this? Right. So let's say this is a week. This is 1 week of trading here. And like we say, like XB always says, don't focus on the losers, focus on the winners, right? And sometimes I find, especially if I've not been having the best week or the best month, it's good to just look through all my winners. And you can obviously do that with this, and skip through, just skip past your losses, right? And just go back to, just click on the wins. But Google Sheets actually has quite a good little filtering function in it. So if you highlight the header row like this and then click this little filter icon at the top, you go into this kind of filter mode, right? So then what you can do is you can say, I just want to look at my winners, right? Makes sense, right? So click on the little icon there, select win. Okay, so now I've just got a list of my winning trades only. God, there's only 5 there. There's not much data in this sheet yet. I haven't had time to actually fill it with stuff. I've been concentrating on this spreadsheet development. But okay, so now I'm just looking at my winning trades. So if I just go to load row, and now I can easily just use the previous and next buttons and just tab through my winning trades, study those, add notes to those, and it should, if I've got a list, a green filtered list like this, and click next, it should just go back to the start of the thing. Yeah, so it will loop around like that for you. And obviously, if I just put this back, select all, boom, you can do things like filter down, like maybe I just want to look at my ETH trades. Maybe I just want to look at trades that were with the trend, right? Filter down and just study those in this side panel. That's what's really useful for this filter. If you want to just view a certain specific group of trades visually like this, it's great for that. And then you can just cycle through just that particular subset of trades. Or equally, you could do, well, I might have to reset this now. You could do, I only want to see trades that had the RSI on, so go filter by condition, text contains RSI, right? I only want to see those trades. Cool. So that's pretty useful. So I think we're done with this trades view. You can do quite a lot with that. Now, when you filter trades like this, hold on, actually, okay. So that's that done. It says tags, session times, right? So the final view that we need to look at is the dashboard here. So if I just close the sidebar. Okay, so this hopefully is self-explanatory, right? We've got on the outputs, we've got trades here, just output of how many trades are filled, no filled, cancelled, whatever. We've long or short biased. You can see how many trades you took on which side, wins and losses. You've got your pie chart there, your win rate here. longest winning streak, longest losing streak, what the size of your average win is, what your expectancy, like your average R return per trade, including your losses. So for every trade that you take, how much R return can you expect to make? And your maximum drawdown in the data set, i.e. So if you look at this, this is your running total here. We probably had, why can't I view the numbers there? 12R there was at the low. So we went from 14R at the high to 12R at the low. And this one was 6R to 5R. So that was a 1R drawdown. This was a 2R drawdown. And this is a 1R drawdown. So my max drawdown was 2R here for this data set. And then obviously the total R at the end there. So you made 14R over these trades, over these 9 trades. Okay, fill and no fill percentage, that makes sense, right? And then this is your maximum R and your maximum drawdown, which from these columns, right? So for drawdown, for max R, we want to look at all of our trades. Like, you know, how many of my trades went to 1R, you know, or 2R? Like maybe, you know, maybe your targets are too far away, and actually you can see, you know, how your win rate, you know, I'd have a 78% win rate here if I just aim for 1R. It's profitable, right? But it's probably not going to be the most optimal solution. You'll probably find over time, once you get, there's not a lot of data in here at the moment, but you will find over time that 3R is pretty much the sweet spot for this system. Like you will see loads of, you know, you'll get good like 60, 65% or whatever going to 3R, and then you'll see a curve as it will start to drop off and drop off lower and lower and lower. And you'll see where the sweet spot is for targets, and 3R is, you know, it's probably the optimal distance to aim for. So you can see that anyway reflected in these numbers over time. Same for drawdown. You can see what percentage of trades drew down, you know, 50% or 75% of your risk. This only takes into account the winners though, right? Because you're only interested, you know, obviously all your losers will draw down 1R, but you're only interested in trades that went on to be winners, to see if you can optimize your entry a bit or optimize your stop loss. So that's that. And the other thing that we've got here is obviously at the moment, this is all set up to use price action targets, right? So when you take the trade, you are aiming for a specific target in mind, right? And it might be based on price action, or you might be following some rules about when to aim for 3 and when to aim for 6, blah, blah, blah. So you just do that manually for every trade. But then you can adjust your settings here. So you can say, actually, I'm just going to change all my trades to a fixed target, right? And that fixed target is going to be 10R. Okay, so now I can see what my win rate, obviously we can see the win rate here anyway, so this is kind of redundant because we can see it here, but we can see what the running total would be like. You can see what the maximum drawdown you'd have to endure. If you wanted to just go for 10R on every trade, you're going to have to take a 5R max drawdown in this data set. You can see what the expectancy, how does that change depending on what targets you aim for. So that's a little useful feature, so you can see what your stats would look like if you just had a fixed target every time going to 6R, 3R, whatever you want. So hopefully that makes sense and is useful. And then the other thing is, right, so then we've got these filters here, right? So all of these filters, you can do this already. You can do this stuff manually from here. So you can go create a filter. So I only wanted to look at trades that I took after a certain date, right? And you can do that. You can do that from these menus, but it's a pain in the arse. It really is. Especially when you just want to be able to quickly filter down your data set. You know, if you have to come in here every time, I think you can set up filter views, save a filter view. You can save the settings, but I just found this really cumbersome when I want to just quickly see certain conditions, certain filters on my trades. So I've added this filter box, right? So we've got some date presets. You can see what your performance was like this week versus last week. See your stats update in real time. You can set a custom date here, start and end point. Maybe you have a custom date like, oh, I don't know. Maybe there's a date in your mind of like when your trading stopped sucking so badly. Maybe you want to just save that date in here. So say, oh yeah, ever since I had this realization, my trades have been going this well, or whatever. So you can flick between those. And on the options here, we can say, well, what if I included all the cancelled trades? The trades that I didn't take for one reason or another. What if I added those to my results? What if I didn't miss all these trades that I'm spotting in hindsight? Like, how would that improve my results, right? And the trades where I broke rules. And what if I didn't? What if those trades weren't in the data set? What if I just followed my fucking rules? How would that improve my trading, right? So you can see how these options allow you to see, like, if I can just improve just that little bit, this is what my stats would look like, right? So I find these toggles like really useful. And then there's a limit here as well. So you can say I only want to look at the last 5 trades in the data set or the last 10 trades in the data set. It's just useful. Like it's another bit like the date range. Or you might just want to see what's my like rolling performance like over the last 50 trades and just see how your win rate is doing like that. That's just another useful feature, I think. And then finally, we have my own filters, right? These are the more detailed versions of this is this is so how can I show? So okay, so I might just want to say, right, these are all your headers, right? These are all your column headers. So I want to look at, yeah, exactly. So I want to look at the pair, and I want to say I only want to look at Bitcoin trades, right? Or maybe I only want to look at Ethereum trades. What about the euro? Obviously I had a no fill on that, and I had something else on the UJ, but nothing. Right, so I can just filter down. What if I only want to look at the 3SX setup? Or maybe I have other setups in here that I want to be able to just view the stats for those separately. Maybe I want to see how is my trading on the weekends. Is it better or is it worse than the average? So you can add anything you want in here. This will display all the column headings. So if you add any of your own fields into the spreadsheet, they'll appear here. And then you can say, all right, maybe I have like, let's look at tags, right? So on tags, you can do contains or not contains. So maybe I'll look at tags that contain RSI, right? And I can look at the stats for those trades on their own. And, unlike this kind of cumbersome filtering, which does work well when you're using the sidebar, right, as we said, but it's very cumbersome when you want to turn on the filters, do your, select your filters here, and then come back to the dashboard and be like, okay, this is what my stats look like, and then come back here and then change the filters and blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do any of that shit now. You just have a filter here that you've got saved. You can just turn it on and off whenever you want at your leisure, right? So I think that's everything. I can't think of any other features. I think I've been through how to set up the sheet, how to get it going. I think I've explained what each column is there for and the reasoning for it. I don't like having unnecessary columns in my data. I've like trying, over the last 6 months or so, I've just been kind of refining like what is the system for the way I record data? What are the kind of standardized fields that I want to have in my spreadsheet? And I've just kind of settled on these for my status and a few conventions that I'll probably use across other sheets that I build in the future. And if I actually turn this into a fully fledged desktop app in the future, I'll probably use the same conventions, to be honest. This sidebar here, this is a bit of a prototype really for an actual app. So eventually you probably, if I keep iterating on this stuff, it will eventually turn into an app where you don't actually interact with the spreadsheet anymore. It's all done through the app, and the spreadsheet will become just like a back end database and make the process of journaling more pleasurable. I just get a kick out of like building user interfaces, and especially in trading, like there's just there's no app that does what I want, and all I want is an app that allows me to statistically analyze my trades, but also view them in a like nice format that makes it so that it's not a fucking pain in the ass for me to look at my trades and to like just look at my winners. And you know, there's no app that makes a smooth experience out of it. So it's kind of like a goal of mine to create something that is a bit easier to use so that you can keep everything in one place. And there's another, so yeah, that's it for backtesting. So there's another sheet that I'm going to build when I've done some backtesting, filled this up, and I'm going back to, when I go back to trading live again, I'm going to want a fully featured journal, which will basically be the same as this, but it will actually calculate your R results based on actual entry and exit prices. And you know, you'll have multiple options to have multiple exits, so that if you exit half of your trade at 3R and the other half at 6R, it will calculate 4.5R for that. And it will take into account, you know, slippage and stuff, like when you obviously enter the price you got stopped out at and things like that. And that sheet is a lot more complex because it will track your P&L as well. If you add the profits and loss for every trade, it will keep track of your account balances, and then on the dashboard you'll have a nice equity curve. And there's loads of cool stuff you can do with Google Sheets. Like, I really recommend learning it. I'll maybe post some other little tutorials and things, little tricks and stuff that I find, like for like an equity curve like this. This is cool, right? So if I go to series, yeah, if I go to series, right, running total, if I click trend line, okay, it gives me a trend line. Okay, that's bullshit, right? But what if I change that to moving average? Okay, still not that useful, but you know, you can change the period. You can have a 10 period moving average. I just don't have enough stats in here yet. There's a 4 period moving average. That's sort of useful. You can imagine if you have a lot more data points on this chart and it's a lot higher resolution than it is now, like you can plot moving average on there. It's quite a useful thing to have. There's loads of little tricks like that you can do with Google Sheets. So yeah, I'll I'll keep sharing stuff in the channel. If you guys, yeah, you guys anyone who wants to use it, just grab the link from the Discord. Let me know if there's any issues. If there's anything that's broken or any bugs that you find, just DM me. I'll try and fix it for you, and update the master copy as well, so that hopefully anyone coming to this in a few months' time will have a really solid spreadsheet that's up to date and it's got all the fixes on for it. Yeah, and if you guys have any ideas of like if there's stuff on this sheet that's missing that you can't add yourself, or there's features that you really think it should have, let me know. Like, I can either add it to the master spreadsheet or I can help you add it to your spreadsheet. You can do all sorts of stuff with Google Sheets. Like, if anyone's got ideas for a specific you know, maybe a completely new kind of spreadsheet to track something else, I don't know, maybe it doesn't even have to be trading related. Like, I love building this shit, so you know, if it's something I find interesting, you know, you might get something out of it. So yeah, let me know if you've got any ideas. All right, guys, I think that's it, and yeah, chat to you soon.